We are back with the legendary diva, RuPaul. Thanks, Ru, for taking the time to chat with me about New York City.
Thank you. City that I love
Ain't it the best?
and hate at the same time.
Now, you first moved to New York City in the 80s from Atlanta, right?
That's right. I moved to New York City from Atlanta, Georgia well, the first time I moved was in '84 and slept on a bunch of couches in the piers in Central Park and just basically all over town and still didn't get any action. And then I went back to Atlanta for a few years and moved up here permanently in November of '87.
And what was the scene in New York City like back then in places like the Pyramid Club and Danceteria? And was it just crazy?
It's so crazy. You know, I was just listening to Nina Hagen's song, New York, New York, the Giorgio Moroder song, and it reminded me of that time and all the clubs there were at that time, because she lists them all, basically, and it was so much fun. And it was, what was interesting about it is that everybody mixed. It was uptown people with downtown people, gay and straight, black, white, Latin. Everybody was together, and that doesn't exist today the same way. And that really exemplified what made this city so great, was that it was just this great tapestry. You got all this wild energy in one place. And on top of that, there were, in any given night, 7, 8, 10 different clubs you could go to on a Wednesday night, Thursday night, any night of the week. You'd go to all these different clubs. It was so much fun.
And something was always jumping.
Something was always jumping.
Do you just think it's something that it's cyclical, that it needs to come back around and around?
I think the scene is really dead right now. We got to witness the beginning of it during the Giuliani era, and I guess it's sort of significant that Michael Ehrlich killed the nightlife. No pun intended, I think, actually. And what happened was that people became more polarized, more separated. People would fall off into different groups and different clubs. The lounge thing really happened. And one of the things Giuliani did was he put in effect, well, actually, these cabaret laws were always in effect. They were just never enforced. And so in certain lounges where they'd have dancing, now you couldn't dance there because it was against the law. You could also, when I was going to clubs back then, you'd always smell pot in the club, and you'd smell, and people would be doing, oh, it's in your coat. So, you know, and back then you could people smoking weed in clubs and doing whatever, having sex and dancing.
Amyl nitrate.
Amyl nitrate. And all the things that, you know, made going out fun.
Debauchery. A little debauchery.
A lot of debauchery, and it's different now, and it is cyclical. I think it'll come back. I asked one of the old timers what he thought of the scene and when it would come back in the cycle, and he said, if and when the economy goes south, New York will come back because, you know, the families won't.
Starving artists will be able to afford to live in the city. It'll start bringing back that. I agree with that.
That's a great point you bring up too, because that's another part of why the tapestry has changed, is because starving artists, edgy people can't find a place to live in the city.
So true, very true.
So it changes it.
Well, I think as New Yorkers, we all have, you know, we can all pick out things that it's like, oh, I hate the traffic. Oh, I hate all these people. Or I hate this. If you had to pick out one thing that you really loved about living in New York City, even still, what do you think that thing would be?
That thing would be being able to work this town on my bicycle and go uptown, downtown, and be like, actually like flying. It's, you know, I can get to Midtown. I did a bunch of interviews earlier, and I zip up there on my bike and zip back down, and faster than a cab, faster than the subway. And even with cabs and subways, well, let's just say even with subways, you know, you can zip around pretty fast. You get a lot of stuff done. When I lived in Los Angeles, you know, I'd have to plan around the gridlock, and I could only do it between a certain time of day. And that's true here, except if you're on a bicycle. You know.
So do you, I mean, when you're on your bicycle, do you actually, I've heard that you take like late night rides on your bicycle by yourself. Is this true?
I do. In fact, when we were in post-production on Star Booty, the sound design guy lived up in Harlem. So I would take my bike on the train up there, ride over to his house from the train station, and then on the way home, which would sometimes be 2 o'clock in the morning, I would ride my bike back down here to the West Village. Or, late nights I always go over to the gym to work out at the 24-hour gym. And afterwards, to cool down, I'll take my bike down to Battery Park City or anywhere, and it's just a dream. Especially living on the West Side Highway, there's the promenade there, and I can have headphones on and listen to music. You can't do that when you're in the street because you need all your senses. But on the promenade, I can listen to music, and it's fantastic.
Well, I bet it's a sight to see.
It probably is. People in Atlanta have stories of me back late at night on my roller skates. And I have roller skates here too, but I don't get to roller skate as much here because there's not a lot of smooth surfaces except for on the West Side Highway promenade. Now in LA, when I lived there, I would go to parking garages at 4 o'clock in the morning when the cars were all gone and roller skate around them because they're really flat and stuff.
Rue on wheels.
Hell on wheels.
Well, you have heard it here first, so if you happen to be in New York City one night when you see a fierce ruling diva pedaling her heart out on her 10-speed, you know who it is. I'm Wayne Anderson. Ciao for now.